Alrighty. Hey guys, it's Miss Shepherd. I'm at a baby doctor appointment, but we're still going to do some math. So I thought I'd record you a little video, and hopefully after you watch this video, you'll understand our I can statement and our notes for today. So first, let's look at this bell ringer. It was Talk About It Tuesday. You see my little mouse moving around on the screen. Please make sure that you guys copied the title and today's date, which is October 20th. And wrote this problem out. It says, which of the following is true of the numbers 4 and 10? Could have been the greatest common factor is 2, the least common multiple is 4, the greatest common factor is 20, or the least common multiple is 40. Obviously, we can eliminate some answer choices. So I'm going to go ahead and start with answer choice letter B. The least common multiple is 4. Well, we know that multiples of 10, 20, 30, 40, there's no way a multiple is 4. Because 10 can't have 4 as a multiple, so we can eliminate that answer choice. The greatest common factor is 20. Remember, factors go into the number, so 20 can't go into 4, and 20 cannot go into 10, so C would not be the correct answer. And then you have two choices. The least common multiple is 40, or the greatest common factor is 2. And you can use ladder method or listing. I'm going to check D just to see. So 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. So, and then 10 and 20. So it looks to me like the least common multiple is at 40, but that it's 20. So the answer cannot be D. So our answer will be A. Now, we can double check this. Ms. Shepherd's going to, give me just a second, I'm going to erase this and we'll double check. Okay, let's do the ladder method and just be sure that the greatest common factor is 2, that we haven't made any mistakes. So 2 goes into 4. 2 times, and 2 goes into 10 5 times. There's a prime here, and 2 cannot go into that prime, so 1 we're done. Look at that, guys. 2 times 1 is 2. So our correct answer is A. Now we're going to switch over. During your bell ringer time, you should have set up your notebook, and Ms. Shepherd has hers ready to go for you. So the title was Adding and Subtracting Decimals. This is a time when you can be setting up your notebook as well if you didn't have a chance during the bell ringer. And Ms. Shepherd already made a mistake. Let me get the white out. That's why we use pencils. Okay? Adding and subtracting decimals. We're going to focus on only adding and subtracting decimals today, and then we're going to move on in a few days on multiplying and dividing decimals. But what I mean by that is, let's take a look, and this should have been pages 15 and 16. You see me writing mine in at the bottom. Okay, please make sure you write your I can statement on the left, and also your title, and today's date is October 20th. Okay, just reminders on how to set that notebook up. Let's take a look at a possible problem where we might have to add or subtract decimals. So if we look, let's look at number 1. Make that bigger for you guys so you can see. Okay, it says a penny weighs 2.5 grams, while a dime weighs about 2 2/27 grams. How much do a penny and 2 dimes weigh? Well, guys, we've got to do some adding there. You know you're going to have to add the weight of the penny and then the weight of 2 dimes. Okay, so to get there, we've got to say, hey, how do we add decimals? Adding decimals is a little bit different than just adding whole numbers like you're used to. So we'll come back to this problem in just a second and work it out. But for now, let's refresh our memory on decimals. Let's take the decimal 30 and 236 thousandths. Now note I said thousandths because we're talking about place value here. Okay? So we're going to get more into place value, but let's just take some quick notes. This is our tens place. Okay, you guys know that. And this is our ones place. These are on the left side of the decimal, and they are whole numbers. And then our 236 thousandths, those are parts of wholes. They are not whole numbers, and they tell us, hey, you got to keep going until this tenth gets to a 10 so we can add it to the ones place. So this is probably review for you, but the 2 is in the tenths place. It is not a whole number. The 3 is in the hundredths place. And the 6 is in the thousandths place. And just like with Our numbers, as they get bigger to the left, if we added a number here, that would be the hundredths place, the thousandths place, the 10,000s, the 100,000s, and then the millions. You guys are used to adding those place values. We can do that on the right side of our decimal. It can keep going and going, just like with our whole numbers. So we can do tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Think about for a second what might come next. If we had a number in this spot on the other side of the 6, if you thought 10 thousandths, you're right. And then after 10 thousandths would come 100 thousandths, and then so on and so forth, millions. We'll get into all that, but I did want you to at least see a reminder of our place values, okay? Now, pause right there. I want to show you your assignment for today, the first part, okay? It says, what do gorillas eat for lunch? Do the exercise and find your answer at the bottom of the page. Write the letter of the exercise in the box above its answer. So, L, when you find the answer down at the bottom, you're just going to write an L above that answer. So let's look at L. And this just says, write a decimal for the amount that's shaded. Well, I see 3 bars shaded. Okay? We're going to treat this hundreds grid, you guys are used to seeing these, as a whole number. So only part of our whole number is shaded, 1, 2, 3. In order to figure out how many are shaded, we've got to count the entire amount. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, that's pretty easy. It's broken into 10 parts. So this must be tenths. So how many tenths do we have? Well, we have 1, 2, 3. So we would write 0.3 for 3 tenths. So let's get to the bottom, find 3 tenths. I found 3 tenths at the bottom, and I'd write the letter L. Okay? Let's look at the example here for I. Now this one's broken even further apart. It looks like they've taken those tenths and broke them 10 ways. So you're going to have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So we have 100 parts now. I know that this is 2 tenths, or 20 hundredths. So we could count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, and we'd have 10, 20. And then if we counted our last block, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. So we have 27 hundredths, and that means our 7 would end up in the hundredths place. So I'm going to go to the bottom and see if I can find 27 hundredths. There it is. And I'm going to write an I. That is an I, even though it looks a little bit like an L at the top. Okay? So all you're doing is figuring out the decimal number. In E and B, you're going to have to do some combining or some adding, okay? On this part 2, you're going to have to write the decimal. This is written in word form, 7 tenths. So if we wrote 7 tenths, well, I'd have 7 in the tenth place. And it didn't give me a whole number, so that'd be a 0. So let's find the 7 tenths. That'd be C. Okay? And Ms. Jordan, you can pass these out to them in just a minute, and if you want to show this video, come back to this so they can see the examples again, you can. So guys, that's your first part of your assignment. Pretty easy. Down at the bottom, this is kind of review because we've already done this, where you have to find the letter on the number line. Okay, look at the first one. It's broken into tenths because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 parts to get to the first whole number. In the second number line, it's also broken into tenths, but it starts at a 1 and ends at a 2. So this would be 1 and 1 tenth, 1 and 2 tenths, and so on. And then the bottom, it looks like they broke this into hundredths. Okay, and the reason I know that is because if I count my spaces, we know this is a tenth, and then in between those two lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this one is adding hundredths because there's 10 spaces in between each tenth. Okay, 100, you're breaking it into 100 parts. So you're going to label those, and when you find your answer for S, you'll put an S above whatever number should go on that number line. Okay, so that's your first assignment. Those are really pretty easy. So let's get into your actual notes. Basket people, if you go ahead and grab these off your table, everybody's going to need scissors and glue. I'll give you a countdown from 15 to do that. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So, we're going to have our little foldable that Ms. Shepherd has for you, and it says addition, I have mine backwards, addition and subtraction. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors, cut along just the first dotted line to make your flaps, okay? So all I did was make my flaps. And then we're going to fold along this fold line, all right? And now we have a neat little foldable, right? And we're going to glue this down. And Ms. Jordan, if you need to pause the video, you can to give them time to do this. I do it a lot quicker than they do usually, but they shouldn't take them too long. So we're going to glue that in. Okay. And basically, we're just going to go over the steps of how to add and subtract a decimal so we can go back and solve that problem. So I'm going to open my addition flap, and the steps to adding a decimal okay, so here, first things first, when we add a decimal, we always line the decimal up. So if we took the number 16.75 plus 9.08, our first step is to line up the decimals. Okay, take a second and jot that down. And most of you probably already know how to do this. So I would take 16.75 and 9.08, and I'd line up the decimals. The decimal here, decimal here. That means the ones are together, the tenths are together, and the hundredths are together, which makes sense. You wouldn't add a hundredth to a tenth place, and you wouldn't add a 1 to a tens place, right? So, after that, our second step, we just add. Pretty easy. You guys remember how to add from previous grades. So, 5 plus 8 is 13. I'm going to carry that 10. Okay, just like we're adding a whole number, we're going to start on the right side, carrying that tenth over, because that 5 and that 8 gave me enough hundredths that I could move over. Okay, so we're going to add the 1 and that 7. There's no 0 here, so that'd be 7. We're going to add the 6 and the 9, which gives us 15, and then we're going to carry our 1 over. So that 15, 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 1 more. Oh, excuse me, I said 9 plus 1. What am I thinking? 1 plus 0 is 1, plus that 1 is 2. Sorry, guys. So, now the last step is to bring down the what? If you thought decimal, you're right. Bring down the decimal. Pretty easy. Okay? So, step 1, line up the decimal places. Step 2, add it like it's a whole number. You guys know how to add whole numbers? Just start at the smallest place value, which in our case is the hundredths place, and add them, and when you get 10 in that place value, you bring it over. And then after you add, you just simply bring down the decimal. So our answer to 16 and 75 hundredths added to 9 and 8 hundredths is 25 and 73 hundredths. Pretty easy for addition, right? Now, they're never going to stay that easy, are they? They're always going to have some kind of word problem to go with them. So that's why you guys are going to practice today, just figuring out, hey, how do I add those decimals, okay? The second step, I want you to flip under subtraction. You see the funky little subtraction written there for you. Subtracting a decimal. And I bet you guys already know how. You're like, oh, I know what to do first. Line up the decimal. So, the first problem I want us to try is 24.2 minus, well, that's 2 tenths, 17 and 6 tenths. So, the first step was to line up the what? Decimal. Take a second, write that in. The second step is to subtract. And the last step, which you guys probably already know, just like before, bring down the what? The decimal. And most of the time, this is definitely a skill you're going to need, because most of the time you guys are going to be adding and subtracting decimals when you are dealing with money. Okay, so let's subtract. Just like normal, we're going to start at the smallest place value. Now 2 cannot subtract 6, so I'm going to have to borrow from this 4 and make it a 3. And when I do, that carries 1 whole, or 10 tenths over, so that's going to be 12 tenths. So let's subtract. 12 minus 6 would be 6. Now 3 cannot subtract 7, so I have to borrow and make this a 13, which is going to turn my 2 into a 1. 13 minus 7, I'm going to zoom in for you. 13 minus 7 is going to give us 6. And then 1 minus 1 gives us 0. You don't necessarily have to write the 0 there because it doesn't hold any value. Last step, bring down the decimal. So 24 and 2 tenths minus 17 and 6 tenths gives me about 6 and 6 tenths, or gives me exactly 6 and 6 tenths. If we were to double check our work with estimation, we could say about 24 minus 17 would have about 6 left over. Because we have decimals, we have to say, oh, it's really about 7. So it does check out. We can check it with a little bit of estimating there. So this is how you add and subtract decimals. Ms. Jordan, if they need to pause to make sure they have this. Your assignment today is simply just adding and subtracting decimals. And I have taken the liberty of doing number 1 and number 2 in your from your work. So those are already solved for you. They're in your notes now. But this one's very easy. You're going to do each exercise or each problem, find your answer in the appropriate box, And notice that the letter is next to it. Each time the exercise number or the problem number appears in your code above, write this letter. So our first answer was 25 73/100. And please show your work on a separate sheet of paper. Some of you are going to get really messy, especially through 9 and 18.